Hey guys, and welcome to Unit 2, Part 7 of the notes. This is our last section that we're doing. We're going to be looking at the different reward pathways for drugs, and some of these you guys are very familiar with from your health classes or even the mouse party activity. So don't feel obligated to write down every single word you see, because there will be a lot of writing if you do that. We are first going to look at some of the psychoactive drugs, such as our depressants, our stimulants, and then our hallucinogens. We are going to go into each of these more in the next couple of slides, but here's just a quick list. Our depressants are our psychoactive drugs that slow down our bodies and our mental activity, including alcohol, barbiturates, tranquilizers, and opiates. Again, alcohol is a depressant. The more you drink, the decreased your judgment becomes. If you partake in too much alcohol consumption, you could put yourself into a coma or die. There is an increase in the GABA neurotransmitter. Besides caffeine, it's the most widely used drug. Typically, alcohol is involved in 60% of homicides. Alcoholism is a long-term, uncontrolled, compulsive use of alcoholic beverages. This can impair a drinker's health. You can see slower liver production and social relationships, and this usually happens with 1 to 9 people who drink. There is help, Alcoholics Anonymous, to help get people sober. The one part of the brain that alcohol does play a large role with is our hippocampus, and if you guys remember from earlier in this unit, the hippocampus is best friends with the elephant. Elephants never forget, so we remember that the hippocampus involves memory formation, and this is why people who drink heavily tend to not remember stuff that happens. Barbiturates or tranquilizers mimic the effects of alcohol. There's decreased central nervous system activity, impaired memory, poor decision making. This is used to help insomnia or reduce anxiety, and has been replaced by tranquilizers. Again, another depressant is our opioids. Morphine and heroin are some of the more well-known. These depress our central nervous system. Pupils can constrict. Your breath becomes more slow. You are more pain-free and happy-go-lucky. There is an increased appetite for food and sex. It is highly addictive. The cravings for it can be very strong, and there is a very painful withdrawal. However, as you guys are aware, death by overdose is very common because you can never get that same high again. You have to take or do more. Here's a quick little list. Kind of goes over everything I just said in a more simple way. And I have these charts for all the other ones, and you guys will see it in your notes. Stimulants are drugs that increase or excite the central nervous system. One of our most commonly used, which it is our most commonly used, is caffeine, the nicotine, diet pills, cocaine, MDMAs, and all of that. Caffeine, most widely used. I typically always have a cup of coffee. Sometimes I have a glass of tea at night. But usually most people don't suffer from a disorder from caffeine, but there are people who overindulge in caffeine and can be caffeineisms. And this can be seen with people with mood changes. They might become more anxious, or their sleep could be disrupted more. If you see someone drinking more than 5 cups of coffee per day, they might have it. These people could be more irritable, have headaches, ringing ear, dry mouth. But if they slowly lessen it or want to try to not drink as much caffeine, they could go through withdrawal and get those severe headaches and be irritable and all of that. Nicotine, again, a very highly addictive drug. It can improve attention and alertness. When it's used, it can reduce anger, anxiety, and pain relief. And this is where you guys see a lot of this with cigarettes. However, withdrawal symptoms are much longer and can last months. Some people can quit smoking cold turkey, but it's very rare. Nicotine usage kills more than 400,000 people each year in the U.S. And that's more than AIDS, alcohol, motor vehicles, homicides, illegal drugs, and suicides combined. Which, if you guys are looking at this Juul epidemic, cigarettes have nicotine in them, and it's more, but they also have a lot of other chemicals and products in it that are known to be bad, whereas Juuls are more of a cleaner nicotine, and the sugars are helping to make it addictive. But these are starting to cause deaths as well, so just be mindful. Amphetamine helps boost up our energy. This is one of the drugs that people used to call speed because it speeds up. A lot of celebrities used to take these because it keeps people up. Some of our more common and more known products are diet pills to help with the release of dopamine, to help lose weight, Ritalin for ADD medication, but even crystal meth, which again is speed. It can be smoked, injected, or swallowed. It releases a large amount of dopamine, and that's why people see like a very overwhelming feeling of pleasure and just calmness. But it does damage the dopamine receptors, and that's why they can never get the same amount of high as they did that very first time. Another stimulant is cocaine, which is from the cocoa plant. This can be snorted or injected. It depletes dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. And this is why when someone is coming down from a high, they can be very agitated and depressed. MDMA, which I'm not even going to try to say that full word, but it's also known as our ecstasy, is both a stimulant and a hallucinogenic product. It releases serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, and it actually depletes the body of all serotonin levels, so you just become like blah for a couple of days. It impairs memory and our cognitive processing. And even when someone uses this, for 2 full years, you still see cognitive defects, which is very scary. It destroys axons that release serotonin, and it can eventually lead to depression. And again, you see a lot of our celebrities who used to use these in the 70s and the 80s are now coming out saying, hey, I'm depressed, but I did X, Y, and Z when I was younger. Poor choice. Here's another little chart. And then we're going to quickly finish with our hallucinogens. Marijuana is a dried leaf. from the hemp plant. When used, it does not affect any specific neurotransmitter, but it does mess with the membranes of the neurons, and it does mess with the functioning of neurotransmitters and hormones. When used, your pulse rate and blood pressure spike. When it's smoked, it's more damaging than tobacco. And a lot of people, and you guys have heard this in a health class before, is known as a gateway drug because you feel like, hey, this one isn't so bad. Other ones probably aren't as bad as people think. LSG, which if you guys ever have listened to the Beatles, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, Lucy L, Sky S, D Diamonds. Or have seen any of the movies that talk about the Beatles. Even if you take a low dose of this, you can see a lot of perceptual changes. Objects and shapes move, colors become kaleidoscope looking. Time can seem super long, so 5 minutes could feel like 5 days. However, reactions could either be very pleasurable, and you could see like very pretty and nice colors, or very grotesque, like vulgar. You might think things are coming out to get you. Could lead to paranoia or even suicidal or homicidal tendencies. It does mess with your emotional and cognitive effects, mood swings, and this does mess with serotonin levels the most, but can mess with dopamine. So again, you could see a link with depression. And here's our last chart, kind of summarizing everything. I hope you guys all have a great day, and talk to you guys soon.